Week 5 is in the books. Alrighty. Here we are, keyboard booger eaters. Let's look at these matchups. None of these were particularly close, at least not at the end. I'll get down to a couple of them, the closest two. There might have been a little bit of drama, but I think for the most part, these games, once the afternoon games kicked off, and into the Sunday night games, pretty much every team had already decided whether or not they were going to win or lose. But we will get there. So starting off with Get Six or Die Trying against Choco Taco. Big Papa Swag pulled out the win, 139.02 to 56.08. A real barn burner here. Just kidding. It was a super close matchup. For Big Papa Swag, Justin Herbert had a poor game, at least for him, by his own standards. What the norm for Justin Herbert is. He had 228 yards and 1 touchdown. He had a down game. Normally these games against, it seems to be, Chargers and Cleveland, they put up big points. So Justin Herbert necessarily didn't put up those, but the next guy definitely did. Austin Eckler went nuts, got 173 yards on the ground on 16 carries. That is nuts. Almost had an 11 yards per carry average. There was an 80, almost 86, I think it was. Maybe it's 70 something. I'm dyslexic, I think. 80 some yard touchdown run, so that was huge. No, just run, not a touchdown run. He got down at like the 20 something. So it was definitely 70 something yards. Big rush. And then he had 4 catches for 26 yards and a touchdown, so it gave him 36.9. Had he had a touchdown on that run, it would have been an almost 100-yard run, and Eckler would have had probably one of the most, close to the most points for the week. He did not, however. He was 6th, but yeah. Alrighty. Jeff Wilson, 21.2 points. Pretty awesome game for him as well. I would say maybe a career game, but I don't really know Jeff Wilson's career to date. I could look, but I'd rather not. 120 yards and a touchdown. He also caught 1 pass for 12 yards. So he did very well. They played Carolina, so, I mean, they were up and stayed up. I think they did they had a touchdown first, and then Carolina kicked, I think, a field goal, and then it was over from there. 17 carries. So he had 1 more carry than Austin Eckler did. And, I mean, he still got 120 yards, so that's great. That's excellent. Moving on, Jamar Chase. This is one where T. Higgins was out, and they were a lot of these passes that Joe Burrow threw were just little dink and dunk. He could not figure out this Baltimore defense, whether it was Joe Burrow, the play calling, on either side, whether it's offensive play calling for them or defensive for Baltimore. It definitely gave the Bengals on offense fits. And Joe Burrow, who was also in this game, not just in the game, but the fantasy matchup, somewhat of a pedestrian outing for him as well. He got boosted by a rushing touchdown, but we'll cover that in a second. Just Jamar Chase, he got a carry, it didn't go anywhere, but he had 7 catches on 12 targets and 50 yards. They weren't the targets that he missed. A lot of them were bad targets. Jamar Chase only had 12 points. Definitely was a very big letdown coming into this game. T. Higgins being out, he was going to get all the targets. He did get 12, which, yes, it's great, but that defense against Baltimore, if it was, even an average defense, I think Jamar Chase could have had more than 20, almost 30 points, based on the amount of targets he would have gotten, the better high quality. That's just a tight matchup, the Bengals and the Ravens. 12 points for Jamar Chase, definitely a down week, kind of a down year. I mean, he's had 2 years, so, up or down, it's not really but he definitely is not performing up to standards, which is a little sad to see, but he's got plenty of time to turn around. He's only, second year in the league, so hopefully he got a long career ahead of him. Tyreek Hill, Definitely hindered by the fact that it was, subpar quarterback playing for him. Teddy Bridgewater was in, and then kind of a very soft, soft call with the new protocols in place. I think it's kind of a knee jerk just with Tua. But Skylar Thompson threw 7 passes. Well, maybe not. Maybe Bridgewater. I don't know when Bridgewater went out or how many he had, but 7 total targets. He caught all of them, 47 yards, 2 carries for 13 yards. So he had 13 points. Not the way you want to get the 13 points, but Tyreek Hill definitely could have exploded for a whole lot more. They kind of got trounced by the Jets, and I until at least Bridgewater is able to come back. I think Thompson is starting this week as well, but for week 6. But as soon as Bridgewater comes back, Tyreek Hill will be a much better. It'll raise the floor a little bit. And then if Tua comes back, he's not on the IR. Tua, I think, probably still should be shut down for the season. But we will see how that ends up playing out. But as far as Tyreek Hill for this week and the immediate future in week 6, probably going to temper expectations a little. He also got stepped on his foot. He was in a boot after the game, but could also very well end up being totally fine. I think he had a limited practice. I don't recall now. Dallas Goedert did great. One of his best games of the season so far. 8 catches for 95 yards. No touchdowns, but he doesn't really get a lot of touchdowns. He just gets peppered with targets and gets good yards. 17.5 points. So good job for him. Finally, get 6 or die trying is getting some points from the tight end position. All it took was a switch from Pitts to Goddard. Very sad. Did not expect to be saying that at the beginning of the season. Moving on to Olave, he caught a touchdown. Initially, it was ruled incomplete. And then he had got a concussion on the play. They reviewed it, and they reversed it, and then they gave him the touchdown, and that would be the last play he has of the day. And he ended up with 15.4 points. 4 catches, 54 yards, and a touchdown. It was a 15-yard, I believe, 15-yard touchdown pass that he caught. No, that was last week. I'm not sure but it was a touchdown that was added to give him the boost in points, but that also was the same play. He got a concussion. Kind of crazy. Don't know if we'll see him week 6, but if he is, there's a lot of wide receiver problems in New Orleans. I think they had 4 wide receivers miss practice on Wednesday. So, and also their top cornerback. So watch out, New Orleans. They're gonna have to throw to somebody. I don't know. Kamara is gonna get a big boost. Najee Harris continually getting bottled up in this year. Najee Harris's points last year were really buoyed by the fact that Ben Roethlisberger would, obviously as a veteran leader, would check it down, get him a lot of catches. Last week was his first week in which Najee Harris didn't even get targeted. That's the first time ever, and I think it's the first time without a catch. But he only had 20 yards on the ground, 16 through the air, and 3 catches. So he got 6.6 points. Very, very negligible. Obviously, it's against a great Buffalo team. I would have figured they would have had to give him more run or at least pass. Kenny Pickett, being a rookie, is going to, and the offensive line being terrible, it's going to get worse before it gets better. Pittsburgh, that's for sure. All right, notable players on the bench. Jimmy G had a good game, 22 points, 253 yards, and 2 touchdowns against Carolina. You kind of expect that to happen, considering it's Carolina. Yeah, fun fact, Baker Mayfield has and I'm sure all of y'all who are listening to this have already seen this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Baker Mayfield has the worst QBR since Jamarcus Russell. Why does that sound wrong? Jamarcus Russell, right? That sounds wrong. Why am I saying that? Anyway, you know what I mean. Oakland quarterback, one of the last years in which they had the salary. They decide their own salary without the actual cap in place. Legendary bust of all time. Anyway, let's see. Michael Carter got 2 touchdowns on the ground, 21 yards, 2 catches, 12 yards, 17.3 points. Another notable here is Kenneth Walker, 88 yards and a touchdown. Got 20.8 points. The points, obviously, the most he's had so far this year. But the big takeaway is Rashad Penny's done for the season. So it's going to be Kenneth Walker, and then it's going to be then it's going to be Homer until DJ Dallas comes back. And no, wait, the other way around. DJ Dallas and Kenneth Walker, and then when Homer comes back, I think they'll take some away from Homer and DJ are going to take some away from each other. But Walker is going to be the lead back, big dog. So we'll see what he gets as far as usage goes, see what that split is going to be like. Kenneth Walker is a special running back. I think he's going to do big things. And now that he's getting the ball, he's back. He's healthy. He's now being given the reins. We will see how he can do from here. Pickens had another day in which he got quite a few targets. Obviously, I think it was second in line from second most targets after Deontay Johnson. So Pickens is establishing himself as a go-to for Kenny Pickett. So that's good for for Pickens, George Pickens. And I'm glad Kenny Pickett is getting somebody he can look at. So that was Big Papa Swag. Get Six or Die Trying. 139 points. Moving over to Choco Taco. This game was... Joe Burrow had kind of like I said earlier, had a really poor game. This game was really keyed, and they really had nowhere to go. They couldn't get any chunk plays. It was all very small, poor percentage. It's just, I have no words. Their first 3 drives were, I think they got 1 first down. They had 10 plays on their first 3 drives total. They started kind of getting it in there, and then next thing you know, they came back. They were down 10-0. It was 10-10, and then, Baltimore should not have won that game. I think the Bengals should have done better considering how they finished, but Baltimore was able to pull out that win. Miles Sanders had a big letdown from his last game, had a really big game last week. Still had 60 yards, 2 catches, 6 yards. He just had a poor game. Arizona's got a pretty decent defense, but we'll see what Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown did as far as their usage. So maybe there was more of a pass-dictated thing. Cam Akers, I don't know why Motley still has him starting. He's clearly not getting him any points. But I think that's on purpose. Anyway. Nico Collins got 10.5 points. Good for him. 4 catches, 65 yards. So, Cam Akers got 33 yards. That's the 3.3. Nico Collins, 65 yards through the air. And 4 catches. Michael Gallup, 4 catches, 44 yards. Got 8.4 points. Gallup is going to hopefully catch his stride a little better, but probably more so once Dak comes back. I think Gallup's going to be Cooper Rush is kind of capped, but Cooper Rush has been excellent to the point where he's not losing games, just not necessarily for fantasy. He's not been excellent in fantasy. Frymouth definitely did not have a good game. 2 catches for 12 yards. It's just the game flow. Playing a really, really good defense. Did he get injured? playing a really, really good defense. You can't always expect a lot of your players to do well. He got a concussion, so he was injured and was out. So, all right, that's what ended his game early. Everyone's getting concussions, it seems like. Gonna be on. He came in. Brian Robinson came into this game. Knew he was going to be on a pitch count. Still got played. He got 22 yards. So the future's bright for Brian Robinson, just not right away. Christian Watson had 1 catch for 1 yard and had 1 carry for -3. So we got 0.8 points. What a great play. Okay. I don't think this. I don't even know. All right. Notables on the bench. Let's see. Jalen Warren got more points than Najee Harris. He had 10.3 points. A lot of that was he got more yards, 24 yards to Najee's 20. He also had an extra catch and more yardage on that one. So Jalen Warren had a better game than Najee Harris. I did not see that coming throughout the week. Or throughout at the start of the season. Words are just failing me today. That looks like Cole Kmet, the offense in Chicago, is finally starting to do things. They scored some points, not a lot, but made it scared Minnesota a little bit there. Cole Kmet got 4 catches and 45 yards. I think that's his best game so far of the season. I do want to check that. Yep, his best game, most catches, most targets, and most yards. So this was a season high for across the board for Cole Kmet. Maybe it's a sign of things to come. Who knows? Yeah. I do want to mention. I know since we did the draft, it started the league in the Yahoo League. It's just sitting there running. Doesn't mean a darn thing. But what I think is hilarious is Alex's team, which is what this one was, is in first place and has like 100 more points scored than anybody else. Obviously, there are people who are injured. Not everybody even has kickers in defense. So there's a lot that's obviously not factual. But for the most part, it's the difference in this team versus the team that it was the start of the season. It's crazy. He had Lamar Jackson, Leonard Fournette, Derrick Henry, Tyreek Hill, and Cooper Kupp. I don't think anyone would have beaten Motley Fool in a single game this year. And that's even if he was setting his lineup. But he wants to go young. He wants to pick up draft picks. He wants to play through the draft, build his team that way. So it's funny to see that because it's all about, dynasty, you have to play for the future. You're playing for draft picks. You're playing for, and you all know that. But it's just so funny to see the stark difference in players and managers, as even with looking at the same team, one team sees it and says, this team is gold, and another manager says, well, I want to do it my way. And I just think that's absolutely fascinating. I think fantasy football is crazy, the way, how different people can see the same roster, even looking at all the same information. Kind of something I know Matthew Berry, when he worked for ESPN, had said a lot of stuff like you can manipulate numbers to make things work. And there are some numbers that some people see that others don't, or not even that they see, but they value it differently. And that's absolutely what happened here. So, alrighty, done talking about this. Again, gosh, taking 20 minutes per... I'm not going to stop complaining about myself. All right. Let's see. All right, next matchup, the name is P, stuck my unit, and faced Crushers, managed by Centerfield. Big summer blowout. Big summer blowout. Stupid. All right. Crushers won 208.08 to 90.5. I think Crushers has had multiple 200-point games, and he's the only one to do it this year. Team to beat, possibly. We'll see. Although he has been beat twice. Yeah, it happens. Can happen. But as we look at the scores, we'll start with Suck My Unit. Kyler Murray, 18.2 points, 250 yards, a touchdown, a pick, and 42 yards on the ground. They lost to Philadelphia. Sad, but a close game. Philadelphia is a team to reckon with. As this season starting to unfold, definitely sticking by the fact that I think the Giants are going to do better. But I think Philadelphia is going to take the division. But Giants are definitely going to win the playoffs as long as they don't lose any or lose people to injury. Knock on wood. But so Kyler Murray, 18.2 points, definitely something kind of a lower for him. But Philadelphia also has a good defense. So he threw a pick. I don't know if I mentioned that. But yep. Ezekiel Elliott had an average game. Didn't get targeted in the pass game, something that is a little unusual. Didn't get any touchdowns either. Had just 78 rushing yards, which is his point amount, 7.8. Did get 22 carries, so he's definitely getting a lot of run, and which I think is crazy. The Cowboys first off beat the Rams, and in the fashion that they did, where they really Dallas's defense really stopped the Rams, and their offense was just able to do what they wanted. And I think that's one of the reasons why Elliott just kept getting the ball, because they were playing with the lead. I did not see that coming into this week. Antonio Gibson, 3 carries, 6 yards, so he's definitely fallen off. The guy who came back and on a pitch count got more than twice the carries that Antonio Gibson did get. But what helped buoy his fantasy stats were the 3 catches for 33 yards. He got 6.9 points. So Antonio Gibson, as I definitely suspected, fell off a cliff. I want to know what McKissick did. I'm going to look at that. I'm going to see. What did McKissick do? Where am I looking? Why am I not figuring out how to look? Ah, here we go. Scores. Let's see. What did McKissick do? I just want to know for myself, because apparently I didn't look at this. He led the team in. He didn't get any carries. No one has McKissick, so I won't cover him. But he didn't. He had 5 catches for 37 yards, so he had the most points. He got 8.7 points on the wire. But I don't believe. Yeah, he's not on a team. But so it looks like McKissick's regaining his passing usage, the passing down. Gibson's obviously taking some away from that, and Robinson's going to be the runner. So interesting way to see everything just kind of unfold. All right, getting back to the matchup at hand. Deebo Samuel had a pedestrian game. He had 2 carries for 12 yards, 2 of 9 in the catch-to-target ratio, 20 yards. He did get a touchdown, which helped him out. I don't understand how Deebo Samuel wasn't able to do absolute craziness against Carolina. I've got no words. But he had 11.2 points, so there's words. There's words for you. 11.2. CeeDee Lamb against the Rams and Jalen Ramsey. Has there been something where someone has made a connection with Rams and Ramsey? I don't know. I feel like there's something there. Maybe it's just the dad inside of me. All right. Wait, that didn't sound right. Moving on. CeeDee Lamb, 5 catches for 53 yards. No touchdowns. Did get 8 targets. I mean, Cooper Rush is able to do what he needs to win. So he's undefeated so far as a starter. Good for him. 10.3 points for CD. Definitely lower than what you would expect. But once Dak gets back, I think things will start to move, especially with Gallup back, CeeDee Lamb. They'll be able to really get those their playmakers the ball a little better. Darren Waller. He played and then got injured and was out before getting anything. I was like, what? Got a hamstring injury. Didn't even get targeted. So, sad day for him. 0 points. Yikes. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. Chris Godwin had 6 targets, 61 yards, had a carry for 2 yards, got 12.3 points. Um, I mean, the he's making his way back. Definitely making his way back. It feels like I think last week he had 10 targets and 7 catches or something like that, but not for very many yards. So his points were average or decent, but he's just going to keep getting the ball. Godwin is just Tom Brady looks for Chris Godwin. I don't know what's going to happen after Brady retires. I don't know what kind of receiver Godwin is going to end up becoming, or if he's dependent on Brady. I know he was a good receiver, obviously, before Brady got there, but I think Brady unlocked a little extra something, and he really looks for Godwin like he always looked for Antonio Brown or Randy Moss. Or Edelman, rather. Edelman. DK Metcalf, big game, 23.8 points. He had 5 catches for 88 yards and a touchdown. One was a 50-plus yard touchdown. He also lost a fumble, so that's sad. But definitely a lot better. DK Metcalf is surprising me this year. And it's not really DK Metcalf. It's really Geno Smith. Geno Smith, and he's just doing stuff that he's never done in his career. He's never been a good quarterback, even as a youngster coming out of West Virginia. Geno Smith just kind of average to poor. It was a really, really bad quarterback class, and he was taken like the second or third round. And I think he was one of the top quarterbacks coming out. It was just a bad. He's coming into his own in Seattle, though. That is for sure. So DK Metcalf, I think his rest of season outlook is going to be a lot brighter than specifically myself would have projected. But I don't really care if I'm proven wrong. But if it's proven wrong for the better, I'm okay with that. I'd rather be wrong about somebody saying, I don't think they're going to do well, and then they actually do well. So we'll see what happens. See what happens in the future. All right. Some notables on the bench. Montgomery had 18.2 points. Didn't get a lot of usage, 12 carries and 4 catches, but got a lot of yards through the air, 62 receiving yards, and got that touchdown playing against Minnesota. I mean, tough. I don't know how Gibson didn't got the start over Montgomery, but Montgomery came in with injury concerns. I'm not trying to second guess AP. If you're listening to this, I'm not trying to second guess your managerial. I'm just talking out loud as a hindsight, looking back. Like, why would Gibson play over Montgomery? It's because Montgomery was a late clearance. All good. Big thing to point out was Tyler Lockett and his 2 touchdowns. The first 2 touchdowns he got all season. He got 30.4 points. Big points left on the bench. Very sad. It wouldn't have mattered considering the amount of points that his opponent put up. But that is hard to stomach when you got 30.4 on the bench. It's tough. Claypool. I do want to mention Claypool. He got 9 targets. So I stand corrected. I don't know how many throws Kenny Pickett threw, but I know Deontay Johnson got like 10 or 11 this last week. Claypool got 9, it looks like, and Pickens had 8. So I made an assumption that Claypool continued to not get targets. That is incorrect, but he only got 10 points, 5 catches, 50 yards. Again, playing against Buffalo, you're going to need to pass a lot, and you're not going to be able to do that well. Their safeties, their linebackers, their D-line, everything is just really, really good. Their corners are good. They're getting healthier. A lot of their top corners are, I think, still injured, but they're getting better. They're getting closer. That's the highlights here. All right, and moving over to center field. Top scorer for the week, Josh Allen. Just kind of put on a clinic in the first half. I think he had 356 yards or something passing in the first half, or whatever the yardage total was. It was nuts. It was, I think that they were talking about how if he gets 500 and some yards, he would set a record for most yards in a game. 20 completions, 424 yards, 4 touchdowns. Did throw a pick. Had 2 big bomb touchdowns. One of the reasons why he got 56 points. Had 42 yards rushing as well. Both of those went to Glenn Davis. Big game for him too. Damian Pierce doing big things there. Once he gets in the end zone, be it in the ground or through the air, he's getting really good points. 20.3 points. He had 26 carries, which is a lot, but in a game that Houston of all teams, getting their first win against Jacksonville, which a couple of weeks ago were one of the hottest teams in the AFC, and the surprise team of the NFL, right next to the Giants, I think, for a lot of people. Yeah, that's saying something. It's good to... He's doing good. So 26 carries, 99 yards, a touchdown, 3 catches, 14 yards. So he's being utilized on the ground quite a bit, and also in the passing game, which is good for fantasy, especially PPR. As a rookie, that's good to see. Saquon Barkley, did he get injured in this one? Or am I just... Yeah, he had a shoulder injury or something and then came back in. So maybe taking a maintenance day or something. Maybe just played through some stuff. But in the game in London against the Packers, I did not expect the Packers to lose the way they did. But Saquon Barkley had 13 carries, 70 yards, a touchdown. He also had 3 catches for 36 yards and a long completion of 40-plus yards. What? He had a reception of 40-plus, and yet his total was 36. So he had 2 catches that were more than likely negative yardage. Nuts. But 21.6 points, did great, and the team won. So, hey, good for them. That's fantastic. Yeah, definitely a big surprise. Happy that Saquon Barkley is getting better, though, and hopefully he did avoid an injury scare. Justin Jefferson, as usual, 30.32 points. He threw a pass for 23 yards. He also had 12 catches of 13 targets, 154 yards, and a 2-point conversion. So no touchdowns. How do you get 30.32 points and not get a touchdown? Well, I'll tell you how. Justin Jefferson can do it. And, that's a little nuts as far as... I like to use that a lot, don't I? That's crazy. Okay. That's Justin Jefferson. 154 receiving yards. That's big. Good job, Justin. Jalen Waddle, another meh game. Yeah, he's had a couple of those this year. It seems to be one or the other. Either Hill or Waddle gets it, but with the combination of Bridgewater having his first week of, hey, you're the QB1, and then not even being able to play the game, and Skylar Thompson was a rookie and just 7th-round pick, I think. 6th-round pick. I was late. But, yeah, it's going to be tough. There are going to be some growing pains if Tua's not back, as well as Bridgewater, I think. But the Dolphins, they stepped down with their quarterback from Tua to Bridgewater. But Bridgewater is a veteran, and he definitely, during his time with the Vikings before the almost career-ending, almost walk-ending, he almost wasn't even supposed to be able to walk after that knee injury. He is a good quarterback, but back then he was looked at almost as the franchise quarterback. So hopefully Bridgewater is back. I think Thompson didn't do terrible. Obviously, they only got 17 points, but he's a rookie, and he had no practice reps, so it just kind of got thrown to the fire. Hopefully Bridgewater's back, and I think that'll boost a lot of the Dolphins playmakers. Edmonds, Mostert, Waddle, and Hill. I think it'll be good for everybody. Hawkinson had 1 catch for 6 yards, so after getting 40 whatever points, just going absolutely bonkers, he follows it up with 1.6 points. So crazy. I mean, you're not going to get 40 points every week. You're not even going to get 30 points every week. From a tight end, you're not even going to get 20 points every week unless you're a Kelsey. or maybe Mark Andrews. 1 catch for 6 yards. That's a huge letdown. They're on a bye this week, so yeah. I would not have thought that New England was going to come in here and not give up any points to the number one offense in the NFL. But I knew that New England was going to score points because, they're playing against the 32nd ranked defense in the NFL. So leave it to the Lions to lose to Bailey Zappi. Davis got played this week, so good on Centerfield for putting him in, and he was the number 2 scorer. So not only did Centerfield have the number 1 scorer, he also had the number 2 scorer, and then left the number 4 highest scorer for the week on the bench. So that's absolutely crazy. The amount of points Centerfield has here. Where's that? Hang on. I'm going to look. I apologize for the delay. I got it. Poop on a stick. I'm going to have to do my phone. It won't show up on the... Never mind. On mobile, it breaks it down as to the most of the least amount of... Anyway, whatever. I'm going to just leave it at that. Yep. And so anyway, Davis got 44.1 points. He had three catches for 171 yards and 2 touchdowns. Both of his touchdowns were monster 50-plus yard touchdowns. He had 2 catches for 100 and some yards and 2 touchdowns. That third catch, obviously not a touchdown, but big game for Davis. And finally, Breece Hall broke out and had a good game himself, had 28.7 points, his best game of the season, 97 yards and a touchdown. He also had 2 catches for 100 yards. Crazy. So he had 2 catches and 100 yards, didn't get a score, so that's absolutely nuts. But he had 197 scrimmage yards and 1 touchdown. So that's a really big game for the rookie. Breece Hall is very talented across the board as far as a pass catcher and a runner. I still really like that tandem that they have with Hall and Michael Carter. And Carter got 2 touchdowns last game, so still got less points than Breece Hall, and will probably moving forward continue to have less touchdown points than Breece Hall. But I think Michael Carter is still a very dependable running back, and if anything does happen to the workhorse in Breece Hall, Michael Carter has proven that he is going to be a point scorer. So. Handcuff. All right, moving on. Notable players on Centerfield's bench. Geno Smith had 39.02 points. He only had 16 completions, but he had 268 yards and 3 touchdowns. My apologies. One big one to Tyler Lockett, and another one to DK Metcalf. Sorry, DK Metcalf had the big one, and another one went to Lockett. He also scrambled for 13 yards. So good job, Geno. Definitely over producing anyone expectations for you on the season. Still lost to New Orleans, but that's beside the point. You did everything you could. Let's see. Another notable, I would say kind of notable in the negative, was St. Brown. Having only 6 targets for 18 catches, 6 targets, 4 catches, 18 yards, especially compared to Reynolds, who had 6 catches for 10 receptions and 92 yards. So Reynolds way outplayed St. Brown. St. Brown had 5.8 points and Reynolds had 15.2 points. It doesn't really matter any of the Lions pass catchers; they still got 0 points on offense. So that's tough to swallow. But sometimes it's just how the game goes. So that was the matchup between the name is P and Centerfield. Moving on to the next matchup. Gosh, I'm averaging 20 minutes. This is just garbage. And I'm probably going to continue looking at the clock and then mentioning it. All right, Del Measy and Masters. This was the closest matchup of the week. Let me double check that I'm saying that. No, it is not, but it is one of the close ones. This is one of the 2 close matchups we had. And I'm remembering correctly, who played the Monday night game? I think it came down to Yeah, it was close until Kansas City and Kansas City played on Monday night. All right, so Delmezy is Team Delmezy playing against Nashi and Masters of the Universe. I kind of feel like Masters is a little bit asleep at the wheel. Low man, you gotta set your lineup, buddy. I'll send you a text. I think I said that last week too, and I did not. But I need to do that just to make sure you're all right. Welfare check. Speaking of checks, discount double check. Aaron Rodgers had a decent game for Delmezy, 20.88 points, almost 40 passes, but only completing 25 of them, 222 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's weird seeing no rushing or no anything else. It's just 220 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's a very short stat line. Decent game for Rodgers, but definitely was not enough to beat the New York Football Giants. Crazy mixed up world we live in. Again, the Packers are not. They definitely lost a step losing Devontae Adams, and I feel like they are legitimately the third team in their division. That record is not the way that's not currently the way that is. I think the Vikings are first, and then Packers are. Oh shoot, the Lions only have 1 win, so that means they're in fourth. I think things will shake out. I think by the end of the season, the Lions have a chance to jump up to 2. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Their offense gives me hope, but their defense pulls the rug out from underneath me. Let's see, Dalvin Cook, 26.1 points, big game for him. 2 touchdowns on the ground, 90 to go with 94 yards. 2 catches for 27 yards. He had a good game, but one of the better games of the season, if not the best game for Cook of the season so far. Good job for you. Chase Edmonds just stopped being used. He had 1 carry for a yard and didn't catch any of his 2 passes, his 2 targets thrown his way. Mostert seems to have upended Chase Edmonds in terms of usage. So maybe we don't use Chase Edmonds this week. We'll see. That I really feel like the Dolphins' running back room is similar to a healthy New England running back room, in which it's really tough to really trust anyone because the game plan is going to change each week, and whoever gets the points, gets the ball, gets the targets, it's going to change each week. I mean, it has to. It's worked in New England forever. I mean, they don't, outside of Curtis Martin going back far ways, LeGarrette Blount. I mean, they really didn't have one guy they could really count on. LeGarrette Blount. I mean, Damian Harris is close to LeGarrette Blount, and the fact that they're pretty much a goal line bruiser. They still get yards, but they're not gonna run away from you. Yeah. Anyway, Jerry Jeudy. 8.3 points. He had 3 catches on 8 targets, 53 yards. Russell Wilson's going to have to get this together. Apparently, he had a shoulder injury. He injured himself against the Raiders. He's kind of got a bounce back spot this week. I believe he's playing Thursday night against the Chargers. Yeah. He's playing against the Chargers this week, so I mean, it could be another stink fest. Might not be. I've got Russell Wilson in a couple of leagues, and every time I've played him, he had a bad game. I'll tell you, the one time I definitely benched him was against the Raiders. So somehow I've been winning more often than not. I'm 4-1 in that league, in which I have Russell Wilson, and I've had weeks in which when he was benched, I had Bridgewater. No, was it Bridgewater? It doesn't matter, because it doesn't matter at all to this league, but I think last week I got 0 points at the quarterback position, and the week before I got 2.4 points. So, hooray me! And somehow I won this week, but not last week. Alrighty. Jerry Jeudy, I think we'll look up once Russell Wilson kind of gets it together. Russell Wilson coming to a new team and new things, kind of got to get that chemistry going. It's going to build up. I think by midseason he'll probably be cooking a little better. Who knows, man? I mean, first-year coach, play caller. I mean, Not play caller. First year head coach. I don't know what to expect. I would have thought the Broncos would have been able to do better, but they are one of the worst offenses in the NFL. And I tell you, that was not the projection coming into this game. Season. Wow. Words. Richie James, 2 catches for 16 yards. 3.6 points. Yeah, the Giants are just kind of spreading the ball out, and I think Slayton was the number 1 this week for the Giants, if I'm remembering correctly. He led him at least in receiving yards. All right, Travis Kelce, he's the big breadwinner for this week. 33.5 points. This one also blew the matchup open on Monday night. 7 catches for 25 yards, 4 touchdowns. So he had 8 targets, and he only got 25 yards, which I think is absolutely absurd. But 4 touchdowns, so with 33.5 points. So good for you, Travis Kelce. Good for you. Marquise Brown had 10 targets, 8 catches, 78 yards, and a touchdown. This is the kind of game you won't see come week 7. Or is it 8? Whenever D-Hop comes back. I think they have a bye, but I could be mistaken. But Marquise Brown is definitely working with that chemistry with... why am I drawing a blank? We just talked about him. Kyler. So, I think 21 points is going to be far-fetched to expect from Marquise Brown after D-Hop is back, but that doesn't mean he's going to fall off a map. Marquise Brown's still going to be a good receiver. Let's see. Valdez-Scantling, one of his better weeks. 8 catches, 6 catches on 8 receptions. Why do I do that? Maybe I am dyslexic. So he had 8 targets, 6 catches, and he had 90 yards. He's supposed to be the take the top off the defense type player, and a lot of the chuck and go, and they're just not connecting. And it looks like this game they did. Although 6 catches for 90 yards, he's not catching a lot of deep passes, if that's his yardage. So maybe they changed up the way they use Valdez-Scantling. Again, I didn't see the game. I cannot watch Monday Night Football. Absolutely bummer because I don't have cable. And, apparently the first week or 2 they had it on ESPN Plus, and I'm able to watch that. But I cannot watch it if it's on regular ESPN because I don't have cable. Frustrating. All right, going to look at some notable players on the bench here. Delmezi had Joshua Kelly at 10 carries for 49 yards. There's a lot of usage, but he also got a touchdown, 2 catches and 33 yards, giving him 16.2 points. It was a good week for him. And another one to mention, Alec Pierce, 8 catches for 81 yards. He is much better than any of the Giants receivers that you got there. I know that's a bit of a homer with these 3 Giant wide receivers there, buddy, but that's Alec Pierce is starting to outshine him. He's only had 2 games so far this year he's played where he's gotten a target, and you can hear me clicking. No, that's a bull-faced lie. He said, "Wow, okay." Let me just rewind that a little bit. This is the best game so far he's played, but week 1 he was in, he had 2 targets, didn't catch anything. Week 3 he had 9 points, then 13, and then 16.1. So he hasn't got a touchdown yet, but his yardage is anywhere from 61 to 81. It's the number of catches he's being used. Matt Ryan's starting to trust him a little more. 6'3", 211, so that's really good size. It feels like all of these stupid wide receivers coming out now, even the studs and the amazing guys, they're all like 5 foot or 6 foot, or 5 foot something or 6 foot. Like none of them are 6'3", 6'4", like tall. So Alec Pierce, good for you. Hopefully it keeps on rolling for you. On that same note, looks like Michael Pittman is having a little bit of a down year. Sad for him, but the more Alec Pierce shows up with Matt Ryan throwing the ball, less involved Michael Pittman's going to get. I don't think Michael Pittman's ever going to go away as someone who's not going to be targeted. But it's crazy for me to see how quickly he's taken to this offense and how his utilization has increased every week. That's definition of great for him. And then Evan Ingram getting 12.9 points, 6 catches for 69 yards. But the real caveat here is the 10 targets for Evan Ingram. Wow. I think Kirk had a really bad week. Christian Kirk had a bad week, and Ingram has been kind of blowing up, at least doing well. I know he was a hot waiver target last couple of weeks. He was starting to get usage through week 2 and 3, kind of cooled off like the next week or two, I think week 4, and then obviously week 5 got 12 points. So it's not a whole ton of points, but for tight end and for Evan Ingram, that's a good amount of points. So good job, Delmezy, getting that win. Moving over to Nashi. Lawrence just had a really, really bad game. He had 5 turnovers. 6 turnovers, 2 interceptions, 4 fumbles. Or is this last game? Am I confusing this? Where's the... Oh, that was against Philly. Wow, I am clearly not with it today. It's not as late as it normally is, which is kind of... okay, anyway, no excuses. Trevor Lawrence had 286 yards. Just read. 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. Definitely got flummoxed by Houston's stellar defense. Their 0-4 defense, 0-3-1 defense, but now 1-3-1. Bad game for Lawrence. If he can revert and come close to or consistently be that week 2, week 3 Trevor Lawrence, he's going to be a star faster than definitely his projection currently is. So I like Trevor Lawrence. I kind of was shocked at how his rookie season played out. But a lot of quarterbacks, like tight ends, they kind of take a minute to acclimate to the game. Running backs, they hit the ground running, no pun intended. And then they kind of get worse. They get a little bit better, and then they get worse kind of quickly. Quarterbacks, they struggle a little bit, usually, not always, like Justin Herbert. But they'll take a year or two to kind of struggle, and then if they're going to blow up, then they blow up, like Josh Allen. Tight ends, they usually have a down year their first year, and they start second and third year, start picking it up. So we'll see. Trevor Lawrence could just kind of take a year or two and start to grow and actually have a decent, competent coach. I heard that, and I don't know if this is anything happened, but Urban Meyer was being talked to by the Nebraska AD, currently living in Nebraska. I hear all this Nebraska news, and I just laugh. Like, how is Urban Meyer already being considered to be a coach? Again, he needs to just hang it up his clipboard. I think that's the phrase for coaches. Joe Mixon, 11.8 points. He had 78 yards, 3 catches for 10 yards. They were able to move the ball on the ground. They did not. The Bengals against the Ravens, they didn't move the ball much, and then they finally started to actually move the ball, and they started committed to it, and they started getting the ball, and they moved the chains, and then I don't know. They stopped, and it didn't work. The play action got a couple of decent setups going, but nothing was able to really materialize. Sometimes it's a defensive battle, and this game kind of felt like it. Bengals-Ravens felt like it. Moving on, Ramondre Stevenson, 20.5 points. He had 161 yards and 2 catches to 14 yards. Didn't get a touchdown, but really ran away. Oh, word. All right. He ran away with from the Lions there. Their defense against the run is terrible. You know what Detroit should do? They should have a reunion with Ndamukong Suh. They need to bring back Ndamukong Suh and then let him just stuff the middle. I think it'd be great. Suh doesn't have a job, right? I didn't hear anything about it. And normally he's the kind of guy like Jadeveon Clowney. He likes to wait till training camp has already started and he's missing reps and missing training time, and I can just come in off the street and be good. But yeah. Well, I think with Damian Harris injured down for a couple of games, Stevenson's going to be featured here. So we'll see if that ends up turning into anything. Once Harris is back, I think he regains the goal line work, and Harris is always going to take targets and carries away from Stevenson and vice versa. So it's going to be a battle between the two of them. I think the only reason why Stevenson ended up with 25 carries is because Harris went out. Sad he didn't get a touchdown, though, especially with Harris out. If he doesn't get touchdowns, that's going to be just sad for him. But, yeah. Moving on, Amari Cooper had back to his normal ways, 20.6 points, 7 catches on 12 targets. That's just terrible passing by Brissett, 76 yards and a touchdown. Oh, my word. That game should have been won, but it wasn't. Fail. Juju, 6.3 points. Outside of Travis Kelce, there's really no chief you can truly rely on. But 3 catches for 33 yards, 8 targets. So he's getting targeted. He's just not catching it. And he's the guy that's kind of near the line of scrimmage getting this stuff. So you'd think he'd catch it and obviously not get a ton of yards. At least if he's getting a lot, he might get a lot of yards. But I don't know what to tell you. Albert, 1 catch for 5 yards. All right, little man, you really got to move him out of this TE spot. I don't think you've even looked at your roster. This tight end he is not producing. As long as Russell Wilson has not been on his game, Aguimenon has not been relevant fantasy wise. It's very sad because I do like Alberto, and I think beginning of the season, a lot of the preseason and off-season, a lot of people were high on Alberto because he was getting a quarterback in Russell Wilson who loved to target tight ends, and Albert's not getting it. It's the other tight ends that are starting to get the love. Yeah. A lot of these short passes, instead of going to the running backs, Russell Wilson likes to throw to the tight ends in the flat or on the corner routes. Maybe it's play calling. Maybe it's just kind of tendencies with the players. But Alberto should be getting a lot more opportunity, and he is definitely not. DJ Moore, now that Mayfield is out, and same with Matt Rule, maybe DJ Moore will start to do better. PJ Walker obviously is going to be able to know he knows the system. Well, actually, I lied. They're going to implement a new system. You know what? Panthers, they need a lot of help. I heard a lot of rumbling about them dumping players. I don't know about DJ Moore, but Robbie Anderson, Christian McCaffrey could be on the move. But as far as DJ Moore, he had 4 catches, 8 targets, 59 yards. He also had a carry for 8 yards. He continues his aversion to the end zone, and he better pick it up. I think he's got like 200 yards on the season. Or no, less than that, like 100 and some yards on the season. If he wants to keep up with his streak of having every season having at least 1,100 yards, he better pick this up. Hopefully PJ Moore can have like a big breakout and DJ Moore just nuts. Is it PJ Moore? No, it's like PJ. I don't know. God, words are hard. Deontay Johnson, 13 targets. So I think I said 10 or 11 targets before. I was actually incorrect. He had 13 targets and 60 yards. Only 5 catches. So he got 11 points. 13 targets, very, very encouraging. Obviously the top guy as far as who Pickett wants to throw to, but Pickens is also someone who gets quite a bit of targets. Yeah, I mean he needs better yardage output, but otherwise he's getting a lot of opportunity. So. Okay. People of note on the bench, David Carr got 30.94 points, 241 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 deep shot for a 50-plus yard touchdown and 3 yards on the ground. Still lost to Kansas City, though. Not going to talk about the DPI. Sorry, not DPI. The roughing the passer. I don't have the mental capacity right now to talk about that. I did see really funny videos when they started a couple years ago, and they came out with a lot of the new roughing the passer rule where you can't land your weight on them. People were like coming out with these hilarious videos of them putting the quarterback, they lay a mattress out, then gently set the quarterback onto the mattress, and they still throw a flag. Hilarious. Still relevant now. Raheem Mostert stealing the show from Edmonds. 19.2 points. Mostert had 18 carries to Edmonds' 1 carry, but he had 113 yards and a touchdown. So had 1 catch for 9 yards. So Mostert seems to have upended Edmonds in that game. But it's kind of been a little bit of a back and forth. They've kind of each gotten peppered in. It might have just been hot hand with Mostert. He had a couple good runs, and they just never put Edmonds in. I don't know. Alvin Kamara, why is he on the bench? 24.4 points. He had 23 carries, 103 yards, 6 catches for 91 yards. He also lost a fumble. So big game in the win over Seattle. A little bit of a bummer there with the fumble, but good for you. CEH definitely coming back to earth. This is the kind of output I was expecting, 6.5 points for him. He had kind of got buoyed by getting a lot of touchdowns earlier in the season, so I think this is kind of where he's at now. Devontae Smith, 18.7 points, 10 catches on 11 targets for 87 yards. Good game, Devontae. Does that mean A.J. Brown had a bad week? I guess we'll see. That seems to be about it. So there we go. Good job, Del Measy. Moving on to the next matchup, we have JB and Demagreg. Blue Mitten and Demagreg. So Team JB and the Guillotine changed his name from Rico's Roughnecks to the Guillotine, and has effectively ended JB's 4-game winning streak. He has now started a new streak of 1 loss. But it's all right. The game kind of started getting a little bit close, but the fact that Josh Jacobs was keeping pace with Patrick Mahomes this game, this matchup which could have flipped and could have gotten 5, JB could have kept his winning streak going. Josh Jacobs said no. And for JB, point total was 129.48, losing to 146.74. Recovering Blue Mitten, he had Pat Mahomes getting 38.48 points. He had 292 yards, 4 touchdowns, 28 yards on the ground. All those touchdowns went to Travis Kelce in the win over Vegas. I mean, I don't know how you don't cover Travis Kelce, but you got to cover Travis Kelce. Come on. One of the big reasons why they had that JB did not get the win was Jamal Williams only getting 56 yards and nothing else. The 5.6 points is definitely is this a season low for Jamal Williams? It is, although it was 5.6 points came after 2 plus point outings. So I mean, you're not gonna be able to bust them all and have huge games every single week, especially for that second R back and a second RB R back. Wow, I'm dumb. So second running back in a 2 running back system. So I guess the end for his huge games had to come, but I'm sure we'll see more. If Swift goes down misses any more time or what. There was a little bit of intrigue with this matchup. And we'll get to that in a minute. I just wanted to point that out as I'm remembering who was on what team. Okay, moving on from Jamal Williams. Derrick Henry had a good game, 27 points, 2 points, 102 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 catches for 30 yards. They beat up on Washington, and Washington just couldn't stop Derrick Henry. There was a play I saw where one of Derrick Henry's touchdowns, they're on like the half or 1 yard line, and you knew they were going to give it to Derrick Henry. And yet, they loaded it up. I think they had like 10 people in the box, and they still couldn't stop him. Just hilarious. Washington's defense definitely not as good as they were supposed to be on paper, so that doesn't help matters either. But the D line is supposed to be one of the strengths, and it is not looking like it. Mike Williams had himself a good game. 10 catches for 134 yards, 23.4 points. No touchdowns, no super huge big plays, but just catching a whole lot of balls and moving the chains. So good job, Mike Williams. On a very close win. Drake London, kind of a little bit of a letdown. I think he got injured. But he had 4 catches, 7 targets, 35 yards. Fairly quiet. But 7.5 points. Mark Andrews, big game. 8 catches, 10 targets, 89 yards, and a touchdown. So he got 22.9 points. So that's big. But one of the reason that JB lost, and this is very unfortunate for him, but he had both of his flex players got him a total of 4.4 points, and Dobbins got those 4.4 points. T. Higgins was a game time call and then said, yeah, I'd be in, and he just never went in. I don't think he got any snaps. He just stood there in uniform on the side. That was crazy to me, but maybe he'll be back next week. We shall see. Notables on the bench. In a negative light, Lamar Jackson did not have a very good game against Cincinnati. Fantasy-wise, he had only 174 yards, touchdown and a pick, 58 yards on the ground. He missed a couple of he missed a couple of open guys. One of them was fairly easy, an easy miss. Another one was the difficulty was up there, but both of them overthrows. Just getting antsy. Cincinnati defense has actually proven a little bit fairly formidable. So, good job for them. But yeah, Lamar Jackson, getting only 16.76 points, definitely below the expectation. Let's see, another decent Travis Etienne seemed to have a decent game. One of the better games for him so far. I take that back. The best game he's had so far. He got 71 yards on the ground, 43 yards in the air on 3 catches. This is also in a game in which Robinson had a very big down game. So another notables. Shakir for Buffalo had 3 catches, 75 yards and a touchdown. Got 16.5 points. The usage is not high enough to be able to play with any reliability, but you never know. He could be something down the line. And that's it as far as JB. So now we move over to Demagreg. Tom Brady, 22.75 points. Got a win that definitely should not have been a win. Again, I'm not going to talk about the penalty, but whatever. 351 yards, so lots of yards through the air. And only 1 touchdown. So, I mean, whatever he needs to take, whatever it takes to win. McCaffrey, big game, despite the loss. Big loss. He had 14 carries, 54 yards, and a touchdown. What helped buoy his stats, though, was the 7 catches for 50 yards on 12 targets. So 23.4. Good job, McCaffrey. Big scorer. Not the biggest, but second biggest, actually, for Demagreg this week. He had 30.3 points. He had 21 carries, 154 yards. Yikes. For a touchdown. And then 5 catches for 39 yards. So he definitely put up quite a bit of points. I was playing a game this week in which I needed Josh Jacobs to get no more than 1 yard on the ground. And I lost. I think it's safe to say I definitely lost. It was not even close. I lost by 30.3. No, 30.2. Yeah, it's bad. Yep. Mike Evans, 13.1 points, 4 catches for 81 yards. It's him and Godwin are obviously the receivers that number. That's not. Excuse me. That's not up for debate. But the fact that Godwin is doing similar as far as what targets and catches and almost yards. That's good for Godwin's progress. Not speaking anything negatively to Evans, just the fact that they're both getting very similar usage as they would if they were both healthy. That's good outlook for Godwin. Cooper Kupp, 31.9 points. This is the top scorer for Demogreg that he played. Had 7 catches on 10 receptions, 125 yards, and a touchdown, and also got one that was a 50-plus yard touchdown. So lots of points for Cooper Kupp. Yeah, big game. George Kittle, I know we mentioned this in a chat, but he tried to get cute with it. Had Taysom Hill in and decided to put Kittle in. I think I mentioned something about it, looking at Taysom Hill's 4 points projected, and I even got scared a little bit, and I was like, ooh, I mean, do you, but I don't know. That's tough to swallow. Even projections, and I say this, projections don't mean anything, but if you have projected for 4 points, I would probably not consider playing them, but we'll cover Taysom Hill in just a hot second. George Kittle, though, with those 7.7 points, 5 catches, 47 yards, fumble loss. So he's a really good blocking tight end. He just needs to get more usage and better efficiency in that usage. And he'll return to what everybody expected him to be. Michael Pittman, 5 catches, 59 yards, 8 targets. It was just a really bad game. That Indy-Denver game is awful. And it's going to be, and it was a punt fest. And I think this, no, Thursday's not Denver, and that might be Monday night's game. Thursday night's going to be the Chicago and Washington game, and that's going to be punt fest. So we get so many great games for the Amazon Prime football, Thursday night football. Ugh. Adam Thielen, really bad game for him. 4 catches for 27 yards. Yeah, that's definitely not like him, but kind of is, I guess. 7 targets, though, so his usage is still there. Notables on the bench. Let's see here. Tony Pollard had 8 carries for 86 yards and a touchdown. He got 20.6 points. He also had a 50-plus yard touchdown. So you got a bunch of extras. Hold the phone. His stat line is almost identical to Kenneth Walker. So that's kind of crazy. But he more than doubled Ezekiel Elliott's points. So another notable that was on the bench was Jacoby Myers. He had 7 catches, 111 yards, and a touchdown. Bailey Zappi, everyone. Welcome to the NFL. Yeah. And now, for the 3rd highest scoring fantasy player this week, was on the bench. Taysom Hill had 1 pass for 22 yards, got a touchdown. So the one time he threw a pass as a quarterback, which he was supposed to be, and now he's a tight end. He had 9 carries, though, for 112 yards and 3 touchdowns. One of them was a 50-plus yard touchdown. 42.08 points. Huge. The good news is for Demogreg is he did not lose this matchup because of the gamble, trying to be cute. That seeing 42 points on the bench, that hurts. I don't care. Even if you win, it's still got to sting a little bit. So that's the matchup between JB and the Guillotine. The Guillotine on top, 146.74 to 129.48. And the final matchup for the week, We have Bumpo running Team Bumpo against Whisker Biscuits 72 Dolphins. Let's start with Bumpo, shall we? Carson Wentz getting 31.86 points. He had 359 yards passing, which is great. 2 touchdowns and an interception. He did have a 50-plus yard touchdown bomb. I believe it was De'Ami Brown. He also got 15 yards on the ground. And they lost to Tennessee. I mean, it's all right. You can come back, Washington, and beat up on the Bears and see. How do the Bears have 2 wins? That to me is a little like, how in the world did they get that done? Obviously, I know the first game was a wash, almost literally, with the flood game against San Fran, and that one was kind of who could be the least sloppy in a game of sloppiness. Sorry for the pause. Yawned. It's past 11 o'clock now, so give me a break. Nick Chubb, 28.4 points. He had 134 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. He had a touchdown of 40-plus. Got targeted once, but didn't make the catch. So Chubb doing Chubb things. I don't know what the Browns need to do. They're giving him the ball. They don't give him the ball. I mean, the good news for the Browns is out of all 5 games this season, if they didn't win, the loss came on the final possession, and that's not necessarily good news. It just shows the defense, play calling, special teams. The first loss was the worst, and that was special teams. And then the next one was coaching and play calling, and this one was just dumb luck and accidental special teams. But I'll get over it. 28.4 points, so good job, Chubb. Robinson had 5.9 points. Definitely had a down game. He had the first 3 weeks of the season. Robinson had like 19 points at least in each of those games, and he's been downhill in the last 2 weeks. So take that for what it's worth. It looks like ETN might be starting to produce a little more, but Robinson will probably always be there, taking stuff away from ETN and vice versa. So unless one of them is stepping out and having big games and getting touchdowns, which obviously they only scored 6 points, so they only got 2 field goals. So nobody got any touchdowns this week, but those are the games that are going to be deciding who gets more points in relation to Robinson and ETN. Christian Kirk, like I mentioned earlier, a down week. He had 3 targets and he had 1 catch for 11 yards. That stinks. Cortland Sutton, 13.4 points. He had 5 catches on 11 targets, 74 yards, and 1 that was a 40-plus yarder. This offense, and I cannot stress this enough, every time I talk about a Broncos player, Russell Wilson needs to play better. Russell Wilson is it's not all on Russell Wilson, but a lot of these decisions, I'm not an NFL quarterback. I'm not even a quarterback, period. I've never played football as a quarterback. I've never played actually football past middle school, which I regret, but whatever. Either way, I have no way of saying I could do any better because I absolutely can't. But Russell Wilson can do better than what he's done. I don't know if we've ever seen Russell Wilson do as poor as he has been so far this year. So get him used to the new system, get him a little more comfortable with his receivers. I think we'll start to see things move, but I don't know. Tyler Higbee kept it going with his high usage. Couldn't convert to many yards, only getting 46 yards with 7 catches. So we got 11.6 points. No touchdowns. It was another tough game for the Rams offensively. They've had a couple of these games where Stafford struggles, and since the run game is god awful, It's just they have to pass. And if Stafford struggles, the team's only going to go as far as Stafford can take them. It's so funny because they won the league last year. They have an amazing defense. I think second best defense in the NFL. And yet everybody, they won the Super Bowl, and a lot of people forget that this team, they struggle. Stafford was not a top quarterback. I mean, I think he was average. As far as fantasy goes, he was rosterable, but he still struggled in a couple of games where he didn't do that great. I think that's going to hopefully not continue, but it's just where it's at. All right. Damian Harris did not have a good game. He had 4 carries for 11 yards, 1 catch for 1 yard. He went down with an injury, hamstring injury. He's supposed to be out for a couple of games. He's getting some limited practices in, but I think he's going to be out for at least 1 game, maybe 2. In which case, Ramondre Stevenson is going to be getting a lot more run. He got 20-plus points this week. I think that's going to be something close to that, especially if he can finally get in the end zone. David Njoku had a decent week as well. Caught all 6 of his passes for 88 yards. I'll say this for one thing for Brissett. He's actually utilizing his tight ends. That's something Baker Mayfield never did. So maybe Austin Hooper is not old and washed. It's just Baker Mayfield didn't utilize the tight ends as much, and I guess I have no excuse for Hooper. It's a terrible analogy because he's caught 3 passes in Tennessee, but Njoku's doing a whole lot better this year, so good for him. I'll also. Harrison, I think, is the next up tight end. He's great as a pass catcher. I don't see him getting used as much, but when Mayfield was here, he liked to target him in the end zone. But other than that, we'll see if he gets used much more. All right. So looking at what's he got on his bench? Anyone noticeable? Hayden Hurst, 6 catches, 53 yards, and a touchdown. The touchdown was absolutely insane. He stretched it out, did everything he could, got it. It's crazy. He was completely vertical. No, horizontal. Completely vertical. Wow, I'm dumb. He was completely horizontal and just reached out, and the full extension of his arm was the only reason why that ball crossed that line. So that was great. Looked like a starfish. I don't know why I thought it was starfish, but I got the first initial reaction was that guy looks like a starfish. And it's stuck, and now I can't not think of Hayden Hurst as a starfish. You go, starfish. All right. Whisker Biscuits. Jalen Hurts had a decent game, kind of what was around what he was projected for, but, I mean, we're used to Hurts getting 30-plus, so it seems like it's kind of a lower point outing, but 239 yards, 2 touchdowns, both of them were on the ground, 61 yards. Also on the ground, so he moved the ball, did what he needed to, and they beat Arizona. Leonard Fournette, the biggest point producer in that Tampa Bay game, he got 2 touchdowns. He also had 10 catches for 83 yards. 56 yards on the ground, touchdown, 10 catches, 83 yards, and a touchdown, and that's receiving. So he had 139 scrimmage yards and 10 catches and 2 touchdowns. So really good job. 35.9 points. Great job, Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette was also the 8th highest point scorer this week. Aaron Jones, 13 carries, 63 yards, 2 catches for 17 yards. In games in which the Packers struggle, they really are not utilizing both Jones and Dillon. And games in which they really get them going, they obviously win. So that seems to be something. I think that needs to be something that Green Bay focuses on because their pass catchers are not getting it done. Christian Watson dropped in the first or second week. He dropped a wide open touchdown. just right through the breadbasket, like looking over his left shoulder. It came in, and he didn't time it right and totally goofed it. And another last week of the week, I think it was last week, where Dobbs dropped a dime of a touchdown pass, like caught it and then didn't take it to the ground and dropped it, and absolutely devastating. So there's that. So that I gotta think that the Packers are going to hopefully start to game plan more for their running backs, getting them used in the ground game as well as the passing game, and being able to open up that team to maybe getting a deep shot with Dobbs or Lazard. But I'm not going to get my hopes up. Again, they very well could be the third or fourth best team in the NFC North this year. Devontae Adams, good news and bad news. Good news, 36.4 points, 124 yards on three catches. Oh my word, he was underutilized. I see 36.4 points, and I'm like, man, this is a big game. What happened? And he pretty much had a Greg Davis game. 3 catches on 7 targets, almost the exact same. He had one more target than Davis had. 124 yards, which was 50 yards less, but 2 touchdowns, and one was a 40-plus yard, another was 50-plus, which is why I got the points. Bad news, he's probably going to be suspended for at least a game. I think they're on a bye this week, so if he's suspended for a game, he'll be gone the next 2 weeks. So Whisker Biscuits may not have Devontae Adams for 2, possibly more weeks, which very, very sad. Very good wide receiver. Got charged with misdemeanor assault after shoving the photographer. Y'all probably already know that by now, so why am I talking about it? I don't know. I saw the video. The guy walked right in front of him. He shoved him out of the way. The fact that he didn't show any remorse or try to help him up or anything, I think is where a lot of the condemnation's coming from. But he was heated. He was fired up. He was mad that they lost. So, I mean, there's no excuse, but I can understand his state of mind. He doesn't want to console others. He needs to go storm off and let off some steam. But it stinks for Devontae. Stephon Diggs had a pretty good game, 25.2 points, 8 catches on 11 targets, 102 yards, and a touchdown. So good job. Definitely was killing it against Buffalo. So, Pittsburgh. Wow, he's on Buffalo. Yeah, dumb. Moving on, Zach Ertz had 10.8 points. He had 6 catches for 48 yards. Zach Ertz is fairly dependable. He usually will catch more than he drops, or even if they have somewhat of unless the target is uncatchable, he's usually going to come down with it. So more often than not, he's going to be 80, 90, 100% of catching his targets. This is a little bit of a lower game as far as what I've seen this year, as well as the yardage output, but 10.8 points is pretty good coming from a tight end. Melvin Gordon somehow got 100 yards, scrimmage yards, 54 on the ground, 3 catches, and 49 points, which he ended up with 13.3 points. So good for Melvin Gordon. His usage was definitely going to go up with Javonte Williams down. Mike Boone's supposed to get points. Not points. He's supposed to get usage. I'll see what he got, and I will tell you right now, it was 11.5 points. Wait a minute. How does Whisker Biscuits have Russell Wilson? How did I miss that? Since when? Anyway, moving on. A.J. Brown, here we go. A.J. Brown definitely had an off game. So Devontae Smith has a good game. A.J. Brown has a bad game. It looks like the way both the Eagles and the Dolphins are going to operate. If Tyreek Hill has a good game, Waddle probably not. A.J. Brown has a good game, Devontae Smith probably not. Vice versa. Obviously, with Tyreek and Waddle, there was one week in which they had over 300 yards receiving between the two of them and a couple of touchdowns. So that was not the case that week. But I think more often than not, I think one's going to have a big week and the other is going to be, I would say, a dud, but maybe not targeted as much. Yeah. All right, so talking about notables on the bench, let's see. Boone had 11.5 points. Ran for 38 yards, 3 catches, 47 yards. That's good. That's good. Moving on up. And let's see. Yeah, Lazard had a decent game. He got a touchdown, 35 yards, 4 catches. Not the best. Again, emphasis on decent. But I know that was that article that was talking about who can Dobbs take over as wide receiver 1, and I mean Lazard's not going away right now. Christian Watson is gone. He's still there, but he's essentially gone as far as getting targets. So you never know. You never know. Dobbs. Oh, my word. I gotta stop yawning on this thing. And so that will bring to the end of the review for week 5. Again, Team Bumpo lost to 72 Dolphins, 110.26 to 165.46. This brings our standings. We still have only one undefeated player with 72 Dolphins. With Whisker Biscuits, we have... I don't understand. There must have been a game in which there was a goof. There's multiple people on here with only 4 games played. I don't know how this is... What is going on with these standings? So it's Dolphins are 5-0. JB is 4-1. Then Guillotine's 3-1. What? Crushers 3-2. Get Six or Die Trying 3-2. Bumpo 2-2. Seriously? Suck My Unit 2-3. Dalmeezy 2-3. Masters 0-5. Chaco 0-5. I'm gonna refresh this and see if this does anything. It did. So now it updated. Now they're all there. Why did that show? Anyway. Alrighty. Moving on. Sorry. Final notes. Week 5. I'm going to list off the top fantasy players, top 10 fantasy player scores for this week. Josh Allen at 56.16. Greg Davis 44.1. Taysom Hill 42.08. Geno Smith on the bench, 39.02, although honestly, they're both center field, so players, which is nuts. Pat Mahomes, 38.48. Austin Eckler, 36.9. Devontae Adams, 36.4. Fournette, 35.9. And in 9th place, 33.5 is Travis Kelce, and the 10th best fantasy scorer for week 5 is Cooper Kupp, 31.9. There are, I'll just wrap up all the 30s, I guess. Carson Wentz then got 31.86. David Carr, 30.94. De'Ami Brown, big game, 30.5. Also still on waivers. 4 targets. I think he's only going to be relevant as long as Dotson's out. Dotson also had a DNP in practice this week, so we'll see. Lockett had 30.4. Justin Jefferson, 30.32. Jacobs, 30.3. So those are the 30-point scores, and it goes all the way from 1 to 16. I'm going to try to do that from now on. Let's highlight 30 and up, because those are big games. Yeah. So... all right, moving on to week 6. What to look forward to. Get Six or Die Trying is going to go up against the 72 Dolphins. Right now, as far as projections go, they are, again, don't matter, but they are within 1 point of projections. So close game, hopefully close game there. The name is P against Dalmeezy. The projections say the name is P is going to lose, but that may not account for... bye weeks and injured players and such. So as I'm recording this is not going to be the final lineup, hopefully, that they set up so that we'll see what happens. But right now it looks like Dalmeezy might be able to come out on top over Suck My Unit. The third matchup, the Guillotine's going up against Masters of the Universe. That one's projected to be close. We'll see if that ends up that way. I mean, he's given up. And And by giving up, I mean throwing in the towel on purpose. It just makes me sad. JB is going up against Choco Taco. Clearly going to be a blowout. But again, there's players on this team that have a bye and 1.9 projected with Christian Watson. So let's hope he changes these players. I mean, let's be competitive. I know you're losing, but try and field a team. Bumpo, the final matchup, Bumpo against Crushers. This one is also projected to be a blowout, but we've seen these flip quickly. So when Crushers played, Crushers played Whisker Biscuits. I know that put a whole bunch of wind in Whisker's sails, but he had like an 8% chance, and then next thing you know, Hertz and Diggs and A.J. Brown bailed him out, and they ended up winning that game. So craziness can ensue. Projections don't matter. There's percentages and all that, especially when lineups have not been set, don't matter. But we are now 5 weeks in. There are clear teams forming as far as top teams getting down there with this is fairly competitive for the most part. I kind of like it. I'm happy that we're having pretty good. Choco Taco, to his credit, regardless of how many points he's had, has the most points scored against him. So even if he had actually fielded the best roster, he'd be probably struggling a little bit. He probably would have a little bit more. He might even be 3-2, I think. Maybe more, but that's a lot of points to be putting against. I think so far we have two players that have more than 700 points for, and to have the points against be 713 the most. The next, we have one that's over 700. Chuck, the name is P, also has 700 against. So when people are scoring against you, I mean, you can't do anything about that. So I want to highlight one waiver acquisition this week. Ronald Jones was finally dropped from a roster. Obviously, in a dynasty league, he could have value long term. I think he had that being on his second team and being unable to really do much with it. I feel like Rojo is his career is going to be either fairly decent veteran backup or he's out of the league soon. But Rojo is no longer on a roster. I don't know why I had it in for Rojo. I think I got burned a year or two with Rojo, but no longer on a roster. Actually, and also, if anyone's listening this far, congratulations to all three of you loyal listeners. But center field, are these like actual bets you're putting in here? Like you're putting money down for this? I kind of looked at it. I'm not going to do it myself, but I kind of looked at it and I was like, oh, okay, cool. If it's just like a friendly bet, like, oh, I bet this. But I don't, that's crazy. I was looking at it, the bets, and from what I'm seeing, it looks like you have to put money for it. I don't like betting like this, putting on all these. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what your status is for these and how much you win, or if you win out or lose or whatever. But good for you. Let's see. Are there any games looking forward to seeing this week? As always, the Cleveland Browns against New England. I think the Browns defense should be able to beat New England. They're riding off that high against the Lions, but those 29 points they scored, I think is going to kind of be their undoing as far as being a little bit too confident. You always have really great coaching with Bill Belichick. At least that's the stereotype and expectation. So maybe they won't be allowed to get, kind of high on themselves. But we will see if hobbled Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi takes the snaps for New England. Jacoby Brissett could always screw it up. for Cleveland, so you never know. I think it'll be a pretty decent game. Let's see, another good game I'd like to see. Minnesota, Miami. There'll be good wideouts going up against each other. If Skylar Thompson is in, which I think he is, if Bridgewater is not cleared, then that would put a damper on that game a little bit. But Baltimore and the Giants, not expected to be a game that you would normally flock to, but the Giants are rolling and they have a better record than Baltimore. And as long as they keep doing what they're doing, hopefully Baltimore loses. I love when Baltimore loses. Game of the week. 325 slot. Buffalo, KC. You know this is happening. This is coming. It's going to be in KC too. Yeah. I bet tickets for this game are going to be absolutely insane. That's going to be a fun game to watch. I hope it's as crazy as it's billed to be. See what I did there? The build to be. Anyway, whatever. Shut up. A Sunday night game, Dallas-Philly. That's going to be a fairly decent game to watch as well. And then the Monday night game, poop, I can't watch it. Either way, Chargers, go Chargers. I think the Chargers are going to beat Denver in that one, unless Russell Wilson decides he wants to do better. A couple of games, a couple of teams on bye this week. So there are players who obviously are not playing. Raiders are one of them. Lions are another. I think the Titans are a team. Are the Titans playing this week? Yeah, I think the Titans are another one. There's one more team I'm missing. But good luck, everybody, this week. Always excited for fantasy football. So super, super happy that we're almost 6 weeks into this 18-week season. We're almost a third of the way there. So we'll see what happens as we move forward. I'm ready to go to bed, so I'll hit you guys up later. Again, thanks for listening, and go Browns.